Hey everyone, what is up and welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifters show. The year is 2013, the month is May, and Adrian MacDonald is about to step into the gym for the very first time and completely transform his life. So I was just in a bit of a reflective mode there over the weekend, and I was thinking back that it's been 10 years since I actually joined the gym first. And I was thinking, what are some of the mistakes and some I am ashamed to say, but these are some of the most common mistakes that I would have made almost 10 years ago. And there's a great saying, successful people learn from their mistakes. Really successful people learn from the mistakes of others. I feel with the gym, and maybe it's just my stubbornness, you hear other people who've been training 20, 30 years plus, the Joe DeFrancos, the Smithies, even Brian Kane, the likes here in Ireland and so on, people saying these mistakes that they've made. And for some reason, whether it's my stubbornness or not, I kind of feel like, yeah, that's them, but I'm different. And now a lot of the stuff that I would have listened to from the likes of Joe DeFranco in particular, he's been a big influence on me. Some of the mistakes that he made, his dad, George DeFranco, is like 70 or 80 years old. I can resonate with even a lot of those things already 10 years into my lifting career. So I thought it'd be a good idea to actually do a podcast on some ways you can maximize your workouts by avoiding some of the most common gym mistakes that I myself have made. All right. So I'm going to start out with the first one, and this is testing my strength, not building my strength. So when I went to college back in Mary I, so I would have finished in 2016. And when I really got into the gym there, you know yourself, for lads, for guys in particular, there's only one lift everyone cares about. You've probably guessed it, it is the bench press. So my typical bench press routine would have been at the time, you might do 10 reps on the bar, 20 kilos. You could put on two tens either side and do that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 reps. You put on two more fives, 50 kilos. You might do that for another 3 or 4 reps. Okay, you've got 10 total reps done. Then you put on 60. You might grind out a rep or two. You try 70, you get buried, and that's your bench press workout done. Now, if you were to count the number of reps that I did there, all right. Like, look, you can't really count the barbell warming up on it, unless, of course, that would be like, would say 70% or above your 1 rep max. But I would have done 40 for what, 5 or 6, 50 for 3 or 4. That's 10 reps, 60 for 1 or 2, 12 reps, and we call it a session. Okay. Now, if you were to repeat that for 4 weeks, you've got 48 reps there across the entire month. Compare that to someone who goes in and does, we'll say, a 5 by 5 or even a 4 by 5, where you're at 80% or 85% there. Over the course of a month, 80 total reps versus what was the other one? I don't know, 48. Who's going to be in a better position? And it's not just a case of the number of reps, but what percentage of those reps were round about 80% or above of your 80% of your max, essentially. That's where the strength zone, the optimal strength zone will be. Strength endurance, about 80 to 85%. Okay, so that was a big common mistake that I made in the past, just testing my strength, not building my strength. When I went to America then, in the summertime in California, we used to train in 24-hour fitness. And again, at that stage, it's just ego was the enemy in some ways. It's like I would have been able to bench press 100 kilos. I remember I got 100 kilos for the very first time just towards the end of, or March 2016. I nearly remember the date. It was around Paddy's Day. And the sense of accomplishment you get of just hitting the 3 figures on the bar, it was wow. I had a spotter there, a guy who was just coming out of the gym. I asked him, would he spot me? He spotted me, didn't need assistance at all, banged it out. So that was my benchmark then. It was almost like, okay, I've got 100. Now, every time I get to the gym, I have to do 100. And that worked out all right at the start because I was more so building my strength and then testing it at the end. But when I went to America, because I suppose the gym workouts, not that they were less frequent, we actually trained quite frequently there, but it was just like there was a lot more variety. We were trying out a lot of new things. I would have just always started with the bench and focused on just testing my strength. Could I get 100 today? Great. I got 100 today. I'm still relatively strong. That was my metric of being strong. But as the summer went on, I fell into this trap again of just testing my strength and not building my strength. And come the end of the summer, when I returned back home, I wasn't able to do the 100 because I didn't do enough building. I didn't put enough reps in, time under the bar to actually build up to that. So focus on building your strength, not testing your strength. And the ironic thing is, when you do test your strength after a set period, maybe 12 weeks of building it, your strength will increase. Okay. Second mistake I made was program hopping slash not having a plan at all. So back in the day, I used to go on to bodybuilding.com, which I'm sure, or muscle and fitness magazine, or one of these, and just check out whatever workout was given for you that day. With the intent that, okay, this guy looks jacked. If he's doing that workout, I'll presumably look like him if I do the same one. The further couldn't be from the truth there. So program hopping or not having a plan. Big mistake that I made, particularly in my earlier days. And the analogy I like to use now is, okay, imagine you and I are both trying to be fluent in Spanish. And you do Spanish Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 times a week for the next 6 weeks. I do Spanish on a Monday, German on a Wednesday, French on a Friday for the next 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, who's going to be more fluent or at least better advanced in Spanish? The answer is obvious. So why do you think, or why did I think, should I say, my workouts were any different? If I was doing a certain workout on one week, why why would I think that if I did something different, completely different the next week, that would progress me even further? Okay. The danger of me having no two workouts being the same was I never really knew what was and wasn't working for me. There was no visible sign of progression there because I didn't give myself a chance to progress because I just switched it up every week. All right. Now I've got to the point where, I almost never go to the gym now at all without a plan. Even on vacation up until recently, I would have like if we were going away or going on a staycation, I might bring dumbbells with me and I would just write out a plan what I do the day before so that I wouldn't be just second guessing when I actually started the workout. Okay. Thankfully, I've been doing this quite a while now. So we'll say over the Christmas just gone by, I was up in Dublin a few times and I like to deload over the Christmas. And during deloads or during holidays, that's when I will take the foot off the gas a small bit. But I will still have enough knowledge and understanding of how to structure the workouts properly. Let's just say, for example, if my typical routine was something like an upper body on a Monday and a lower body on a Tuesday. While I might still do upper body and lower body on Monday and Tuesday over the Christmas, I would just vary the exercise that I do, but I'd still hit all the muscle groups. All right. So it's just important that you have a program to follow, that you don't program hop. And then, maybe over holidays, that's a nice time to take the foot off the gas to have a bit more fun. But for the most part, the majority of the year, you should be aiming to follow a program because otherwise, how are you meant to know what's going to work? Just think of that Spanish analogy. You want to become fluent in Spanish? The best way to do it is practice Spanish consistently. All right. If you want to get stronger, if you want to get progression in your workouts, you've got to be doing that workouts consistently for, I would say, at least 4 weeks. At least 4 weeks. Third mistake I made was skipping warm-ups. And again, this even happened to me most recently over the Christmas. When you're in a bit of a rush and you've blocked out, you have like a pretty narrow window of time to get a workout in. And you know what you're going to do. You have a plan going in. Oh God, like this usually takes me an hour and 15. I only have an hour. So where am I going to buy back these 15 minutes? I've been there before. I tried to buy back the 15 minutes. So I said, well, look, I'll just skip the warm up. And even recently I did this and it caught me out. I was doing tricep dips and I hadn't properly warmed up at all. And I hurt my shoulder. All right. And what are we? We are 5 weeks on at this stage. It's probably 90% of the way there, but I can still feel that niggle every now and then. Okay, so skipping warm-ups was a big mistake I made. So, always don't train to warm up to train, all right? Make sure you do your warm up first of all, which would allow you to train. And a good warm up, a good typical blueprint for warm up, you're going to get some blood flow. So elevate the heart rate, whether that's 3 to 5 minutes on the bike, on the treadmill, on a run. Just I feel most people, myself anyways, I always operate better when I have a bit of blood flow. Not necessarily, even, yeah, crack a bit of a sweat, get a bit of a sweat on there. Your muscles are going to feel that bit looser. Then you want to do some dynamic mobility. So whatever exercise or whatever form of training you're doing that day, you've got to mimic that in your warm up. It should start from general exercise and be more specific. So for example, if you're doing a bench press as your main lift on day one, you might start out with some upper back work, some Blackburn, some rows, some face pulls, which would like get blood flow into the upper back and then go on to more specific work. Okay, now I might do some push-ups, which will be obviously activating your chest muscles. I might do a dumbbell flat chest press. I might just do 1 set of 10 there. Then I might warm up on the bar and then I'll load the bar from there. So warm up, always start from general to specific and get a bit of blood flow. Okay, start with some blood flow, just get some movement there and you'll feel much, much better. You'll feel more limber going into your workouts. Also, just on the topic of warming up, one thing I didn't do, to be fair, was static stretching beforehand. Common mistake people make, but that can actually decrease your strength performance. You hear any of the best powerlifters out there, they always say they want an element of almost tightness. You want to feel almost stiff, like stiff and tight, and that your muscles are like packed together and you've got a good solid brace there. And just being too loose, being too limber, it can actually be dangerous. It can almost make you feel a bit weaker. So if you are someone who likes to do static stretching, I would do it well before or well after your workouts. All right. Going on to number four, fourth mistake that I made in the gym back in the day, not varying my workouts. All right. This is kind of the opposite of at the start where I was just program hopping, but then I got to a point where I was doing the same thing consistently for, I don't know, just weeks, months on end there without any variety at all. And this caught me in the long run because I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I would have started out the year with the 1 RM on my deadlift of 200, and I finished the year about 190, which was a bit disappointing. But in hindsight, looking back, I've only myself to blame because I was doing pretty much the same workout, the same program for too long without varying it up. Everything works, but nothing works forever. And whatever routine you're doing, the body will adapt to that over time. And it will just become really efficient at doing that particular workout. I mean, if that was the case, what's stopping us from following the exact same program and doing that forever? You'll get to a point where you plateau. And it mightn't happen in 3 weeks, it mightn't happen in 4 weeks, but down the line it will. So that is why everything works, nothing works forever. Louis Simmons, one of the greatest strength coaches out there, that's what he always said. And it is true, and that's a mistake that I made. I was even talking to a guy recently on the phone. Now, I was never this long following a program, but one guy bought a program online 18 months ago. 18 months ago. Now, he was pretty inconsistent in the gym where he might have 8 weeks of just going hard, then he might fall off the wagon and get back at it again. But for the last 18 months, I can't fathom it. He went in and he did that exact same workout every time he started again. All right. I mean, I told him in one end, like, I admire you for your consistency in just doing that workout without getting bored. But, that must have been challenging for you. And that's what a lot of people forget about. It is important to follow a plan, but you need to have some element of variety in there too, just to make sure you can continue to progress. And that was a mistake that I made. And as a result, my deadlift did decrease. Next mistake I made was not doing this is a big one. No, I not doing any unilateral or multiplanar work. So what I mean by unilateral is basically single leg work, single leg or single arm work, and multiplanar is multi-directional work. All right. So after about 3 or 4 years of going to the gym, I was happy enough with my strength and my physique that I built. But I got to a point where I was feeling a bit stiff. And I didn't really know why. And then I was just analyzing my workout. And I'll challenge you to do the same. Look at every exercise you have in your program And my guess is at least 90% of them, you're either moving forward or backwards. Okay. And this is basically the most common plane of motion that people train in. So let's just say, for example, a bench press. Okay. You're bringing the bar down to your chest, you're pressing it back up. Okay. What about a pull-up? You're pulling yourself up to the bar and you're lowering yourself down. A chin-up, a lat pull-down, a squat, a deadlift. These are all working in just one plane of motion. But there's three planes of motion that we actually should try training. Okay. The first one is what I just mentioned there. But then next is lateral work. Do you have any exercises where you're moving away from your body, like a lateral lunge, like a Cossack squat? Okay. These are really underrated exercises. Maybe lateral raises. That's a common one people do. What about, do you have any rotational work? So that could be examples such as like a rotational, a rotational core chop, a pal-off press, a Russian twist, a lunge with a rotation. Okay, a rotational med ball slam. Life happens in 3D, so we should actually train that way. And that was a big mistake I made in the past. No wonder I was feeling stiff. Every exercise I was doing, it was just all in the one plane of motion. Any form of machine work there, it's just all in this one linear plane of motion. Okay. But we don't just move forward and backwards in life. We got to go left. We got to go right. We got to rotate. We're born to move. So your workout should mimic that. Okay. And that was a big mistake I made in the past. And no wonder I was feeling stiff. No wonder that, it somewhat impacted my performance even back running there, because everything was just done in one direction. So whether that's running where you're just going for a steady state 5K, why not do one day where you're doing shorter runs, but you're going left, you're going right, you're going backwards, you're going forwards, you're rotating left, you're rotating right. Okay. Train your body to move more. That was a big mistake I made in the past. And second one then was like not doing any single leg work. Okay. You run on one leg, so you should probably train on one leg. And the danger of just not doing any single leg work is, let's just say, for example, you could have an imbalance where your right leg could be a bit stronger than your left, or your right arm stronger than your left. If you're doing a deadlift and your right leg is stronger than the right leg will overpower the left leg and overcompensate for it to get the job done. Just like if you're doing a bench press and your right side is weaker, stronger than your left side, you will notice that sometimes the bar will move higher, faster on the right hand side as opposed to the left hand side. There's a reason for that. Okay. Your left side isn't pulling as much weight. So a good way to counteract this, to avoid imbalances, is to do more single leg and single arm work. I'm talking reverse lunges, lateral lunges, Cossack squats. If there's one exercise you try today, let it be Cossack squats. I always feel amazing after them, unbelievable for your hip mobility, your ankles, your adductors. Okay. Instead of always doing a flat bench press, you might do dumbbell bench press. Instead of always doing a barbell back squat, why not do some form of a single leg squat, a pistol squat, okay, or a step up, okay, a reverse lunge, a forward lunge, a rear foot elevated split squat. I know they're tough, but these kind of exercises, they just help prevent imbalances. And that was a huge mistake I made in the past, not doing any unilateral or multi-planar work. And now when I do it, I love doing, for example, rotational med ball throws, where I will lunge forward, and then on my return back, I will throw the ball against a wall. So I'm adding rotation there. I love doing rotational landmine press, where let's just say I'm facing forward, holding the bar. And as I press the bar, I'm rotating my torso as well. Or a pal-off press. Okay. Look up all of these exercises. You're adding rotation there, particularly for your core. It's really, really important there. All right. Number 6, then, the mistake I made most recently, actually. So this was completely neglecting cardio. I got ankle surgery in December 2020, and that effectively put me out of running for a full year. Now, to be fair, I was training at home for 2021, and I didn't at the time have any cardio machines like I do now. I have an assault bike and even have a treadmill there as well. Not that I would have been able to use the treadmill, but I completely neglected cardio, unless, a 5 or 10 minute finisher at the end of at the end of the odd workout. But I didn't do any like steady state cardio, any zone two cardio, and I felt that. I did feel that. Like, look, I was still obviously fit enough to do everyday tasks like do hiking, go upstairs, and so on. But for my level and for the standard that I set for myself, when I did get back into doing it just last year, it it took me, a few weeks to build it back up. It did take me a few weeks to build it back up, and no wonder I didn't do any at all for pretty much a full year. Like just steady state cardio. I wasn't able to do running, but I could have done biking had I bought an assault bike sooner, or I could have done maybe battle ropes or just more circuits. All right. So that was a big mistake that I made in the past. And now I really enjoy doing cardio. I do a combination of steady state cardio, which might be something I'm currently nurturing a bit of a hamstring injury at the moment. So I'm doing more on the assault bike. And I like doing circuit training as well. So we'll say Sunday, I did a full hour of circuit training, which was 45 seconds on the skier. It was a heavy sled push and it was rotational wood chops. Okay. So I did a cardio exercise, a leg slash, yeah, the sled will be like a leg exercise and a core rotation exercise. Did that for 1 hour straight, 21 total sets, got a good sweat afterwards and felt good. All right. But just that was a big mistake I made in the past, completely neglecting cardio. All right. It's not essential for fat loss, but that's not to say it's not important for your health, for your longevity. All right. Next thing that I made a mistake was not doing exercises in the right order. And I've really started seeing this more recently. Like it's much more than just writing exercise on a piece of paper. Think of it as like adding a piece to a jigsaw there, and you're solving a problem. You're making it's a puzzle essentially. And I didn't see that in the past. I just thought that I could throw a lot of random exercises down before I got my certification and take it from there. So, for example, when I was training for the marathon, madness looking back, what I was doing, I would do a 1 mile run as fast as I could. Okay, I got to like a 5:05 mile was my absolute best in the treadmill. And then I would go in to do a heavy set of squats or deadlifts. Then I go back and do another 1 mile run for time and repeat that. I was thankfully I didn't get injured. I was completely draining my energy sources there. Like doing intense cardio and then doing compound lifts. Hmm. Sounds familiar, CrossFit, doesn't it? I can't think of a better way to injure yourself. And I didn't see that at the time. And also, like, even now, just reflecting back, not doing exercise in the right order and not doing enough accessory exercises. That if I just did a deadlift and then didn't do anything after that, you finish your deadlift, you do 4 sets. But if I'm not doing any work to actually build up my deadlift, like RDLs, like hip thrusts, okay, like the glute ham, like Nordic curls, if you're not doing anything to build on your main lift for that day, how are you meant to improve it? And I didn't see that at the time when I was writing up my own programs, but now I truly believe it is a skill. It's combining so many pieces of the puzzle together to make sure you are ticking all the boxes, that you can't prioritize everything at once. Some things have got to just be the starter, you have your main course, and you might have your appetizer at the end. You got to decide what's your main course going to be. What's the prime goal you have? And then you build in your appetizers and your starters around that. I didn't see that at the time. That was a skill. And finally, then the last mistake I made was not actually tracking any of my lifts. Have you ever gone to the gym and you were thinking, God, what did I lift last week? How many reps did I do on the pull-ups? How many rows did I get? What weight was I using for my shoulder press? Did I do 90 or did I do 95? What did I warm up on? I hadn't any of that background data before, but now I have an Excel file here in front of me And I can go back as far as 2020 and even earlier, and I can see the exact program that I was doing, the exact lifts that I did, the number of reps that I did, and so on. So I always have a good idea now. If I'm starting a new program and I'm doing deficit deadlifts, I'll look back. When was the last time I did deficit deadlifts? Okay, I did it back in July 2022. What weight was I lifting for five? Okay, I got 170 for five. Great. So starting off in this session, I know that 6 months ago, I was able to do 170 for five. Now, I'm not going to go to 170 straight away, but I might start off on 160 and work my way up. There's no second guessing there. Knowing exactly now what you're going to be doing. That was a big mistake I made in the past. And then as a result, you're not able to see your progress. And it's particularly important you track your lifts and your numbers on the big compound lifts. For the accessory work, the bicep curls, tricep pushdowns. It is important to know your numbers, but not as important. But absolutely that was a mistake I made, so I'd recommend anyone to do it. Track your lifts. Know your numbers going into the gym so you're not second guessing. All right. And that is all for today's episode. So they are the mistakes that I made, which hopefully from listening to this, you will not make the same ones. Just to recap, testing your strength, not building your strength. Okay. Program hopping and not having a plan. Do you want to become fluent in Spanish? Well, then practice Spanish more consistently. Skipping my warm-ups, a great way to injure yourself. Not fearing your workouts. Remember, everything works, but nothing works forever. Not doing any unilateral or multiplanar work. Life happens in 3D. We should move that way. All right. Otherwise, imbalances will or can potentially happen, and you just feel a bit as stiff as a board if you're just doing everything in one plane of motion. Completely neglecting cardio, not essential for fat loss, but for your health, longevity. Studies have shown that endurance runners versus just dedicated strength lifters, they live on average 7 years longer. All right. There's a lot to be said for having a good cardio base. Do not neglect it. Not doing exercise in the right order, as I mentioned there. I'm not doing enough accessory lifts to build up my main lift. And finally, not tracking my lifts. So they are some of the most common mistakes that I made. Hopefully you found this helpful. And if you did, please share it on your IG stories. I do this podcast for free. I don't run ads towards it. There's no sponsorship or anything. It's just all me here talking to a screen, trying to give as much value. If you did get value from the show, please just share the show in your stories. All right. Tag me at Mac Lifestyle Fitness on Instagram. That's MC Lifestyle Fitness on Instagram. Tag me and I will reshare it. Or shoot me a message and let me know what you enjoyed about the episode. It really does help. And while you're at it, if you are listening, I would appreciate just leaving a 5-star review. This is the only way this podcast will grow. All right. So that is all for this week's episode. Hope you got value from it. I will post links in the show notes for anyone who wants access to my free Live and Lean recipe cookbook. As I mentioned on last week's episode, someone she reached out to me after just 1 week of following some of the recipes. She lost over 1 kilo. All right, not bad at all. I also have access to a 7-day fat loss accelerator if you would like that. Link again in the show notes. Or if you would like to try out a Mac Lean lifestyle transformation program, I've actually done out a free 3-day program, and I'll post links to it in the show notes if you would like to give it a try. Now, if you want something more customized, more personalized, I will leave a link for a one-to-one online coaching application form. I only take clients by application only. If you think you might be a good fit, just fill out your application form and I will reach out to you and get back to you. All right. That is all for this week's episode. Hope you enjoyed. Chat to you next week.